Guys, how is everybody doing? Today, Strangers Chapter 1 is now officially playing in theaters today, so go watch it if you wish. So, I decided to review The Strangers and The Strangers Prey at Night. I'm gonna do this in one video because I have very little to say on both of these movies because I feel I've talked about movies like these movies before, so I don't really have much to say. And since they're so simple, downgraded movies in a way, to where I don't have much to say, so I figure I wouldn't waste a lot of people's time. I won't waste my time, so I might as well just do it in one video. I have done a review like this before, to where I talk about two movies in one video. I think the last time I did it was for the Equalizer when Equalizer 3 was coming out. I could be mistaken, but that was the last time I believe I did one of these videos. And I like doing these videos so where I talk about one movie and then I talk about the other one video. I want to do one of these videos more because I have like a lot of fun with doing it and it's a lot of fun to edit. So I might do this a lot more. If you enjoy it, please let me know. But anyways, enough stalling. Here are my thoughts on The Strangers for right now. Before I even talk about The First Strangers, I want to give a little history on this movie for me. I remember it was yesterday, so I'm a bit more forgiving on this movie. I really love this movie because of my nostalgic memory of watching this. It was late at night. I believe it was like 12 or 1 in the morning, I believe. It was like midnight or 1 a.m. I can't remember, but it was late. And me and my cousin and I, Jesus, we were up late, we were messing around, we wanted to watch a scary movie. It was his first time watching it. His parents to this day do not know that he watched this movie with me. They just thought he watched it by himself because he was freaked out after watching it. There's hair in my eye. And we were watching it, we were on Netflix, and we wanted to watch a scary movie because this was the first time he was watching a scary movie, but at this point, I'm like 10 years old. I've seen like every horror movie imaginable, and I don't get scared easily. So we find this movie called The Strangers on Netflix. The reason we wanted to watch it because the guy with the back-headed mask, we thought he both looked cool. We thought he looked pretty scary. So we put the movie on, not knowing what the movie was about. And the entire time we were watching it, I was so intrigued. I was really loving it. And I look over at my cousin, and I remember he's just sitting there like he's freaked out. Like every time they would knock on the door. I remember he would jump, and it would shake like the entire couch. He would jump so bad. I love nostalgic memories like that, and that's how important this movie is for me because this was probably the last movie to where I thought it was actually really scary and actually like a really scary movie. But I'll talk about that later. But yeah, a little nostalgic memory and a little memory for The Strangers for me and how I got introduced to it. But all nostalgic, all out of the way. Here are my thoughts on the 2008 classic, The Strangers. Up with my positives on The Strangers is I really like how realistic this movie feels and how realistic that the movie kind of is because when you watch this movie, when you watch like a lot of home invasion movies or a lot of horror movies, you're like, we all know this is fake. We all know that this wouldn't really happen. Like movies like Halloween, Child's Play, Nightmare on Elm Street, movies like that. When you watch those movies, you're like, yeah, that wouldn't really happen, but the characters are cool and I really like the world. It's like, makes you think, like, what if it did happen though? But when you're watching The Strangers, this is something that could happen to you. Three random people you don't know just in the middle of the night, torturing you, messing with you throughout the night, knocking on the door or asking you where Tamara is, messing with you, possibly trying to kill you. You don't know what these people are trying to do to you. Like, this movie feels so realistic to where when you're watching the movie, you're like, this could happen to you. This could, like, legit, like, happen to me. Now, don't fall for the stupid bullshit about the movie being based off true events. If anything, it was inspired because in the beginning of the movie, it's just like it's based off true events. But when a horror movie says that, take that with a grain of salt because you got movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Blair Witch, now The Strangers, where they're more inspired by events that happen because this movie is more like inspired by the director's memories about like a person knocking on his door asking if anyone was home and he later found out that night that he was going around door to door and trying to kill someone, and he took that inspiration to this movie. So don't really fall for that. But the realistic tone that this movie truly has, I really love it. I really enjoy that, and it just makes you feel just like, what if I'm just up late at night, someone comes knocking on my door? Scary to think about, truly. Well, now I want to lock my door. When I talk about a lot of horror movies, when I talk about a lot of movies, and one of my biggest issues when I watch a horror movie is generic and cheap and predictable jump scares. However, this movie does really good with scares of excuse me, and it does a good job with scares in this movie. The main thing that really stands out to me the entire time I watch this movie, and it's probably my favorite sequence of the entire movie, I won't lie actually, is the part where the female of the movie, she's like walking around kind of like nervous, like so she feels something's wrong. She feels that someone is watching her, something's wrong. She just doesn't know what it is. Walking around, but as she's like standing there like thinking, you see this man walk up and he's just standing out in the back. You can just see him in the back and he's just standing there looking at her, tilting his head. She goes over, grabs a glass of water, and you can still see the guy. He's still that back is still back there. He's a bit faded after she goes and gets a glass of water, but he's still there. And that's a great use of scares. Like that's a good thing to use. Like and that just shows you don't need loud noises to spook your audience. And what I love about that, it reminds me like a lot of like Halloween. Like if Michael were walking in, he was just staring at you, tilting his head, like the way he was like acting there and the way he walked in, like you remind me a lot of Michael Myers. And like that entire time, it's like freaking out. It's like, dude, turn the fuck around. Like it's legit like chair gripping and it's actually kind of scary. And I remember when I was watching this with my cousin, I remember the entire time he's just like he was legit terrified out of his fucking mind because there was a guy just standing there and just staring at her, not doing anything. It's fucking creepy. But my final positive is that I do like the strangers themselves, the actual strangers. Like I love the mask. I love how mysterious they are because you don't really know why they're doing this. And when they finally give you an explanation on why they're doing what they're doing, like taunting them, messing with them, trying to kill them, and they finally tell them why they're doing what they're doing,
Us. Because you were home.
it's kind of scary. And then when you get that explanation, it's just like, wow. Like, that's kind of creepy. It's just like, so you just go random houses and just see if someone's home, and if they are, you just fuck them up? That's creepy. Right. And, like, I actually have seen, like, speculations and, rumors, I guess you could say, is that the strangers themselves is like a group of family. Like the guy with the bag head is actually the father. The Bo Peep uh, stranger, the girl one with the black hair, that is the mother of the trio. And then the long blonde hair lady is actually their daughter. I have seen stuff like that, and that's when you hear that, it's just like, oh, that kind of makes sense. But it's so mysterious to where it lets the audience think for themselves what they want to believe. Let them think that what they want to believe. Like, are these strangers just like a group of people that just got together and decided to fuck some people up, or are these actual family that are creepy? Like, you just don't know. And I love that about that. Like, it has you thinking. It's just like they don't give you an explanation who they are. They don't give you an explanation why they're really doing this. And I love that. And that's what makes the characters more creepy. And that's why I'm a little bit nervous for The Strangers Chapter 1 because they're supposed to like get more into the Strangers lore kind of explanation of who they are and why they're doing that. It's like we don't need an explanation. The stranger characters are scary when you don't have an explanation, when you don't know why they're doing this. But however, this movie is not perfect. I do love the movie, but it's not perfect. So moving on to my mixed aspects, the main thing I don't know how to feel about, and sometimes it doesn't really bother me, but on this most recent rewatch it bothered me, and that is the pacing of this movie to where it like sets up the movie, which I'm glad it is, like letting you know what this place is gonna be at. It's in this house. There's a gun here. These are the characters, and this is what happened before they got to the house. It sets that up, and I like that. But when you finally feel it's about to get going, it's just like, okay, more boring stuff. Okay, she's walking around. She's taking a bath. Oh shit, a stranger's here. Oh god, scary. And then it slows down again. It's like, well, what the fuck are we doing? Like, it's weird. It's where it's like, okay, okay, okay. Ooh, and then it's like, oh, like, I don't know. There are moments to where it like really picks up to where it's like really, really entertaining. It like has you gripping your seat, but other times it's just like, it's only been 15 minutes and nothing's happening. My biggest complaint, and a complaint you're going to hear me say later, the characters make the dumbest decisions I've ever seen in a horror movie. Now, I will admit, and I will defend it a little bit, is that the characters freak out because maybe there's so much adrenaline going on, they have a bunch of fear, they can't think straight, when everybody says that the characters in horror movies are being dumb and all that, but it's like you got to put yourself in their position. There's like a lot of adrenaline, a lot of fear going on with them. They're not thinking straight. They don't know what to do. So I can defend that when they're doing things stupid like just hiding in the room and stuff like that, not trying to like bar the doors or anything. But the main issue that I have with that is one character seriously pissed me the fuck off. So the main dude of this movie, I believe his name is James. He calls his buddy because he proposed to his girlfriend, but she basically refused that, and he doesn't feel comfortable driving back home with her because they're basically exes at this point. And he calls us, is like, okay, it didn't go as I planned, and I need you to come get me. So he comes to get him, and it's about maybe 50 minutes into the movie, and these strangers are still fucking with our characters. But when he shows up, a rock gets thrown out his window. He gets out, I was like, well, what the fuck? And he sees the house, he sees the truck that he sees the car that our characters drive. It's all fucked up to pieces. There's a truck behind it that clearly broke it. And he goes into the house. Everything is trashed. There's a gunshot at the fucking door. The door looks like it got fucking beat the shit out of it. There's blood on the floor. There's a knife on the floor. There's no phones. And all this guy's doing is just doing basically Scooby Doo, looking around, it's just like, investigating. I wonder what happened here. And after the music stops, he finally says something and he gets himself killed.
Hello.
If I saw all that shit and know that something probably bad happened, I would probably call out someone's name or leave the fucking house and call the police because I am not going to walk in there because something bad is going to happen. Either I'm going to get killed when my guard is down, or I'm probably going to get shot in the face. But no, I'm going to do some Scooby Doo shit. All in all, guys, I really love The Strangers. The Strangers is one of my favorite modern horror movies, and I think this is probably the most recent horror movie that is actually kind of scary and to where it can actually have you gripping your seat. Now, it definitely won't be for everybody. It might be a little too boring for you, and the pacing might get to you at some points, but I do believe it is a good horror movie. I really enjoy it. It is one of my favorite modern horror movies, and this is a movie I like to watch during the summer when it's like late at night, maybe 2 a.m., and I'll put the movie in if I'm bored, or maybe watch this movie with one of your friends who's never seen it and you want to enjoy like a good scare with them. So, Strangers, I really enjoy it. So, moving on to The Strangers Pray at Night. Moving on from The Strangers, now we are going to be talking about The Strangers Pray at Night. So, starting off with my positives on The Strangers Pray at Night is the soundtrack, to where this movie feels really 80s and it has like this really cool 80s vibe to the movie to where I'll talk about one thing that I really like this movie doing, and it has like a really great soundtrack to where especially like the swimming pool scene during that whole sequence when uh what was the song called? It was the song from Old School, as I like to say. It's just like, I need you more than fucking ever. Like that song. Like, that song's playing when the stranger gets in the car with the dad and he starts playing music. It has a really cool 80s soundtrack, and I really enjoyed that about the movie, and I'm a big fan of 80s music. Sue me all you want, yell at me all you want. I'm an 80s whore, okay? I want to grow up in the 80s, okay? So I really love the 80s vibe in this movie, and I really love the 80s soundtrack because mwah, I really like how this movie like switched genres from the first movie, and I'm glad that it didn't try to do the same thing that the first movie tried to do. Because the first movie is a home invasion movie, which is clearly a home invasion movie, but The Strangest Prey at Night is more of a homage and a love letter to slasher horror movies, where it pays homage to the slasher subgenre like Scream and Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a way, where I really like that, to where it doesn't try to do the same thing that the first one did. It does its own thing, to where if you're not a fan of Home Invasion, but you do like these characters and you're more of a slasher person, then watch this movie. Because I would recommend this movie just for that alone, because I really like this whole slasher vibe of this movie. And I really enjoyed that, to where it does something new and it doesn't feel like a repetitive thing. Because when you think the Strangers is getting a sequel, it's like, well, how's that going to work? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, are they just going to go to another random house? Technically, they do, but they do something new with it. I do like the more larger setting of the trailer park because the first movie was a very isolated setting with just inside the house, but this movie has a much larger environment in the trailer park, to where they go to a pool area, they go to a different trailer, they're out in the middle of the road, they're at like a baseball field at one point, I believe. I really like that about the movie, to where it doesn't feel as isolated, it doesn't feel like the runtime is dragging out, and to where it's just like, well, go over here, go over there, hide here, to where you can literally like hide anywhere, and if one of the strangers finds you, then you can kind of escape. At the same time, you're fucked because this place is a whole maze, and you don't know where the fuck you're going. I like that, and I really like that it tried a different, more larger setting than it did from the first movie. My final positive is something that I do prefer over the original movie is the characters. I think these characters are all very likable. Now, I will admit some of their performances are a little iffy, especially the son of the movie. I thought his performance was weird as that character because I felt the character that he was playing and the performance he was supposed to be giving, I never got that vibe. But I really enjoy these characters to where, especially when they're freaking out and they're trying to run away from these strangers and they keep thinking to themselves, oh, we're gonna die, we're gonna die. Then they lift each other up. They're like, we're not gonna die, remember, like, and they try to cheer each other up, like, past memories when they were kids and all that. And the father and the mother of this movie felt like an actual couple, felt like they actually loved each other, which a lot of horror movies will do that for me. And yeah, these characters are really enjoyable, especially because not a lot of slasher horror movies anymore really have really enjoyable characters like they did like in the 80s, like with movies like Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween and stuff like that. That we don't really get that anymore, and it's glad to see that that these characters were really enjoyable. Moving on to my mixed aspects, this movie doesn't have the scares of the first movie though, because you get that good horror movie to where like I said earlier, is that I believe that's one of the scariest horror movies in modern day because it like legit feels like an actual like feels like a documentary in a way. But in this movie, the scares don't feel as good to where they're more cheap jump scares. So, sure, there are some. The scariest scene in this entire movie I felt was the part where the dad got impaled by like a wooden thing and he's slowly dying, slowly choking on his own breath. And then the baghead stranger gets in, he just sits there, plays the radio, and the dad is like begging for his life and he's begging him not to do this. And then he pulls out like a screwdriver and then he just stabs him till he's dead. That scene was scary, and especially the performance by the father during that scene, like his performance there was like terrifying to me, to where it was his performance alone that saved that scene from actually it being scary. But other than that, nothing really scary happens in this movie, which is unfortunate. And moving on to my negatives, and once again, the characters, they're fucking stupid. And the main thing that really pissed me off when I was watching the movie, and I was just screaming at my TV, it's just like, what the fuck are you doing? Is the part to where the son of the movie, he gets a gun and the blonde-haired stranger is attacking his sister. He has a gun. He points it at her and he's like, "Okay, drop your knife. Don't fucking move. Take off your mask." And it's like, "Fucking shoot her." And he's like too afraid to do it. He's like up and he doesn't want to do it. But then later on, he's okay just stabbing one to death. It's like, "What the fuck? You can stab one to death, which is a harder way of killing someone instead of shooting one of them." It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Shoot her. You had the chance to kill her. Fucking do it. My final negative is it's kind of upsetting from when I talked about the first Strangers and how it had that really realistic like movie to where this like could really happen to you. Now, I understand this movie's trying to do its own thing and trying to be different from that first movie, but this movie doesn't have that realistic tone anymore. It just doesn't have that. Like with the scares, it doesn't have that anymore, and it upsets me because I get it, slashers aren't very realistic. They're more like, oh, this is just a little fun little movie to watch with your friends and all that. It's just like, yeah, and then killers will get shot, set on fire, or whatever, and they'll still come back and try and kill you. It's like, that's fun, but when you watch that first Strangers, like, these characters aren't meant to be slasher characters, and there's parts of this movie to where they're surviving so much shit to where it's like, none of these ordinary, normal ass people would survive some of this shit. Like, when the baghead guy gets set on fire, and he somehow still is able to get out of his truck and, like, limp towards her, swing his axe, and tries to kill the sister of the movie. It's like, you would not fucking survive that. All in all, guys, I do really enjoy The Strangers Prey at Night. I do prefer the first movie over this movie, but this movie is just a lot more fun to watch. It is a fun time. I do believe it's very underrated, and I feel it's fairly underlooked in a way, because that's unfortunate, because this movie's a lot of fun. I really enjoy the movie. It's a fun movie. I do believe that I don't think it's better than the first movie, but it's still a fun time. If you don't like the home invasion horror genre and you're more of a slasher guy, then check this movie out, because I do think you might enjoy the movie more than the first Strangers. But all in all, it's a fun time. Thank you all so much for watching my reviews on The Strangers and The Strangers Prey at Night. Let me know your thoughts on both of the films down in the comments below, and which one is your favorite, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the home invasion horror genre, or the slasher horror genre? Let me know in the comments below, and we shall talk about it. And if you like this video, like it. If you love to subscribe, hit the bell notification so you will get notified for all of my latest videos. And of course, until my next video, I'll see you all next time.